love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace we are gentle and we people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle and we people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Come on, with lots of harmony.
are swift, rocks are ancient, mountains are high, oceans gray, winds are restless, trees are patient. You, my child, are away. Waves are crashing, rivers churning, planets twirling, stars ablaze. Storms are raging, atoms whirling. You, my child, are away. To perceive these wondrous things, to count the beats of a blackbird's wings, to tell a story and dance and say. All the splendors of creation, very happy that you came, 'cause they needed someone to see them. You, my child, are away. To perceive these wondrous things, to count the beats of a blackbird's wings, to tell a story and dance and say. Seeds are hopeful, dewdrops fleeting, oak trees crooked, redwoods straight, and they are not known to the sleeping. But you, my child, are away. You, my child, are awake. You, my child.
Revisa tu corazón para hallar el amor en un rincón, pero busca el amor, ni placer ni pasión, el amor, lo que hace al otro bien. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, en ti. Registra tu cambio cuando cambia el calor del corazón. tempestad y a la flor, un pétalo del sol, el amor. Lo que hace al otro bien. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, en ti. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el
We come together for a moment out of time in a place made holy by our presence, to celebrate what is deepest and most true, to honor the beauty of our own heart's longing, to cultivate wonder, imagination, and the courage to act, and to care for one another. Please light your chalice. Our common chalice is now lit.
Welcome to worship with the Church of the Larger Fellowship. I was going to say welcome to our last worship on earth, but that wasn't quite the impression I wanted to convey. What I wanted to say was welcome to our last service on this topic of the gifts of the earth that we're having for February. This week, Jessica will share with us some thoughts about our relationship with our friends, the trees, which makes me think about the way in which the CLF really is its own kind of a forest. Each of us is individually reaching toward the sun, our own trunk strong, and it looks like we're separate, and it even looks like we're a really long ways apart, but somehow under the ground our roots are entwined, and we are here together, creating this forest, this network of relationship. And so it matters that you are here. We're very glad you are. Come, let us worship together.
Let us now pause for a moment of deepening together as a community. For we each carry within us joys that are too great for one heart to hold, sorrows that are too much for one heart to endure, local and world events which call upon us to bear witness. Let us begin by recalling the joys, whatever you may be celebrating or whatever evokes a feeling of happiness or peace for you or for others. Now let us recall our concerns and sorrows, whatever you or the world may be holding that is in need of our healing and caring thoughts. In the heart of love and in the spirit of prayer, we give thanks for this time together, where joys can be magnified and sorrows can be lessened. Blessed be.
I invite you into the spirit of prayer, of meditation, of centering and opening to the largest that holds us all. The poet and farmer Wendell Berry writes, "When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound for fear of what my life and my children's lives will hold, I come into the peace of wild things." There is so much fear, so much despair over what our lives and our children's lives may hold. There is so much to worry about, so much to hold on to. And in that, it helps to come into the peace of wild things, who, as Berry says, do not tax themselves with the forethought of grief. And so I invite you to hold in your mind, in your heart, some wild place, a river, a forest, an ocean, even a single city tree that holds you, a place where you can rest, if only in your imagination, a place to be in the presence of beings who do not tax their lives with the forethought of grief. I invite you to breathe. I invite you to remember that all of us belong in this interdependent web, in this space where all of us are wild, all of us are part of nature, all of us are interconnected and interwoven, all of us inextricable one from the other. In this web, there is still grief, there is still fear, but there is also ever-present growth, ever-present change, ever-present possibility, ever-present connection, an ever-present knowledge that who we are is a part of something so much larger than what we know in our ordinary lives. May you rest in that knowledge and be free.
There are many fairy tales that begin a long time ago when the trees could talk. Well, according to author Peter Wolleben, who wrote the book The Hidden Life of Trees, trees can still talk and they are still communicating with one another. And in fact, I am in a second growth forest right now on Bainbridge Island in Washington, where I live. And the trees are talking to each other right now. Trees live in communities just like this one, and they communicate underneath the soil. And in fact, they have evolved over the years to learn how to ward off disease, how to share nutrients with one another, and They live in groups of families. So parent trees and children trees all live near each other and communicate with one another and keep one another safe and healthy and strong. And in fact, trees that live by themselves alone often die and have a much more difficult time surviving. And in this forest, they call it a second growth forest because it was once an old growth forest that had been here for thousands of years. And it was logged sometime in the late 1800s by the logging industry that moved in and displaced the indigenous people. And this forest grew up after that. An old growth forest has to have all kinds of different requirements in order to qualify as an old growth forest. And one of the things is it has to be totally undisturbed. The soil has to be undisturbed at a very deep level, and the trees themselves have to be largely undisturbed. And then the forest canopy has to function in a certain way. To be a second growth forest, it has to have been an old growth forest and then logged, and now it is sort of reclaiming itself. So the trees around here are about 150 to 250 years old. In this part of the country, in the Pacific Northwest, there's 3 kinds of trees that live in these forests. There are hemlock and cedar and Douglas fir. These are largely the trees that make up these forests. The cedar tree in particular is the one that the Suquamish people, the indigenous people of this area, believed to be sacred, the sacred cedar. And so when we think about what it is that we can learn from the teachings of the trees, well, one of the things that we can learn is the community. The community of this forest functions in such a way that it can actually reverse the effects of climate change. It can actually suck up ozone and carbon dioxide and transform it and make the area around it healthier. So what can we learn from the teachings of the trees? Well, first of all, we can learn the strength of community. We can learn about putting our roots into the ground and growing stronger, sharing with one another. And we can imagine ourselves rooted deep into the ground. The trees around here, this tree right behind me, is rooted deeply into the ground and in conversation with all of the trees around it and growing up. Steady and strong against all of the many winds that blow. We can learn from the trees on how to stay solid and calm and peaceful in a time of great change. And we can recognize that deep sense of time. 250 years, some of these trees around here have been here. Imagine that, and those aren't even considered old growth trees. Old growth trees often live for thousands of years. Imagine what it means to live that long and to be in conversation with the planet for that long. So I want you to take a moment and imagine one of your favorite trees, that tree that you can remember growing up with. Maybe it was outside your bedroom window, or it was a big tree at your grandparents' house, or maybe it's a tree that's in your yard right now, or you visited a forest once and really were taken by a beautiful tree. I want you to call that tree to mind right now and think about what was it that connected you to that tree. Its size, the energy of it, the age of it, and how solid it is when you touch a tree, how solid it feels, how rooted into the ground it feels, and how we can connect with that. The trees have so much to teach us. I feel grateful to live in an area of the country that has so many beautiful trees, and I feel like the Lorax, I feel like I speak for the trees, and that it is up to me as a person who lives on this land, who benefits from this land, to speak for the trees and to be a steward of the trees. What can we learn from the trees? Their steady, patient growth, their strength, their seemingly immovability, and the fact that they live forever and have seen so much, and that quietly, underneath the soil, they communicate with one another, and they have little networks of communities. May we all be like the trees, grounded down into this earth, growing up towards the sky, radiating that solid, peaceful strength. And yet, underneath it all, in constant relationship, in constant community with one another. So I encourage you to go out and find a tree today and put your hand on it. Even if it seems silly, even if it's the only tree around you, even if you can't get outside, which some of us can't, and there is a tree that you remember, or there is a tree in your mind, the perfect, most beautiful oak tree, and you can put your hand on it, and you can connect with that energy. May we all be like the trees together, a community of trees, communicating with one another, sharing knowledge with one another, and with an awareness of our connection to the earth, our connection to trees, and to one another. Amen, and blessed be.
What if we adopted trees as spiritual teachers? What might we learn from them? Maybe where you live now, the trees are green. Maybe they stay green all year. Maybe where you live now, the trees look as they do in these pictures, bright leaves catching the sunlight, illuminated against the sky. And maybe where you live right now, the trees have let go of their leaves and stand empty, branches sharp against the sky. However they look and whatever kind of trees you have near you, I invite you to think for a moment about the gifts that they offer to you. Trees offer us the gift of air to breathe. They breathe in the toxins, they take in the carbon dioxide, and they clean the air for us over and over, day after day. Maybe you have trees near you that give you food. Apples, oranges, bananas, coconuts, all kinds of food that grows and is dropped generously by the trees. Here, I'm done with this, you have it. Maybe the trees give you beauty. Maybe they shade your house or protect it from the winds of winter. Maybe dead trees are cut down to offer fire for your warmth in the winter. Maybe your house is built of trees, or the chair you sit on. So many gifts that we receive from trees day after day. They never say, "Hey, why don't you say thank you once in a while?" But this is our chance to say it anyway. This is just a moment to appreciate the beauty the help, and all of the nutrition that trees offer to us. Trees can offer us this much because they're so good at getting what they need to grow. They have root systems that go down as far as the parts we can see go up. They go deep, deep into the earth to find what they need, and their branches and leaves reach out to soak in the sun and to turn it into food for themselves. And so may we adopt them as teachers, taking in all that we can, blending it with light so that it provides nutrition for us, nutrition that allows us to give everything we have, let go of it without complaint, and offer it for the good of all. Thank you, trees.
Two trees are standing side by side. Their roots are deep and intertwined. Branches reach up to the sky. Two trees that stand there side by side. And together they remain, steadfast in the sun and rain. Watch the clouds go rolling by, two trees, they're side by side. And the seasons come, we rest and grow, receive the ones who nest and go. And when the final winds come through, then fall to me and take me too. For I have no desire to face or witness there an empty space. Two trees are standing side by side. Their roots are deep and intertwined. Branches reach up to the sky, two trees that stand there side by
And now we come to that time in our service when we extinguish the flames that we've lit for this special time set apart. But never do we extinguish the flame that burns eternal. The flame of love, the flame of our commitment to a just and caring world. If you carry that flame, please touch your heart and say to yourself, I carry the flame, and allow that flame to burn bright.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I got the light of peace and love, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, I got the light of peace and love, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, I got the light of peace and love, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. All in my home, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, all in my home, I'm gonna let it shine. All in my home, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I got the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, I got the light of freedom, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine, 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 shine. Shine, just let it shine. Yeah, shine, 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 shine. Shine, just let it shine. Yeah, shine, 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 shine. Shine, just let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine.
Thank you.